Welcome to Dr. Lotte's Science with Soul, the podcast that transcends the boundaries between science and spirituality. Prepare to be uplifted, transformed, and awakened to create a path to healing your own life physically, emotionally, and spiritually by bridging the gap between science and soul. Welcome to Dr. Lotte's Science with Soul. Our guest today is Cheryl Murphy, who has studied metaphysics for over 20 years, including international studies in Brazil and Germany, as well as seminars and classes in Colorado. She has oriented her practice as a spiritual medium towards channeling loved ones who have passed over and psychometry. She's a clairvoyant, healer, and ordained minister, as well as a certified hypnotherapist and an intuitive facilitator. Cheryl has studied mediumship and advanced mediumship classes. She loves helping people find their inner strength. Cheryl uses her ability as a psychic and medium to help people make life's important decisions. As a psychic, she's able to bridge the connection to your spiritual guides. And as a medium, she can put you in touch with your loved ones. Oh, so welcome, Cheryl. It's such an honor to have you as a guest today.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for inviting me on your show.
I can't wait for you to share your story. We were chatting a little bit before we started, and I came from a very scientific family and background, and you came from a very spiritual background. So what guided you to do the work today, and what was it like when you grew up? What was that family like?
Yeah, well, I was guided, actually, Spirit guided me to do this work, and they have come to me several times telling me, we need your help. We need you to be our voice. That's really my big moment with the angels. As when they put me in the, they kept me in my, they stopped me in my tracks, so to speak, and they had this conversation with me about, look, we need you to do this full time. We're going to help you, please, and they were just surrounded me with love. So I know I'm connected with angels. But getting to my family and my upbringing, my family is full of artists and actors and musicians and theater. And so I came from a world of the arts. Also, my mother growing up, she had these books around the house about Edgar Cayce or psychic development. I mean, books that I never heard of outside of my house, right? But inside our house, it was just very natural for us to talk about the psychic world or our abilities. And, we would have seances and practice when I was young. My brother, who was closest in age to me, we would practice and have fun as children. But it was always natural and an invitation. The spirit's always been very loving, and we would have lights come through our house. I had spirit come into my room when I was, very, very small, a beautiful golden light come in where I knew it was a family checking in on me, and that they would move things around in my room. But it wasn't to scare me, it was to laugh and to play. So it was a very playful energy growing up. And that's really how it started for me. And I've always had that passion about, how can I use this to help people? How can I tell people about this without them being afraid? That's really what my mother has always wanted me to do, is please share this with the world. Please tell people, either write a book or, see as many people as you can. So with her and the angels, it's just been really a vocation for me and a life of passion, a life of dreams fulfilled.
Wow. So, you grew up in such a different environment than myself, coming from the science family. So, you grew up and connected and saw light and had all these wonderful experiences. So, at what point did you decide to sort of
Yeah.
step into this and work with other people?
It's interesting, but I remember the exact moment. I was 13 years old. My mother is an actress, and she was acting back then when we were in Houston. She's always been an actress her whole life. I know that's been her dream, so I'm so happy to see her fulfill that. But we were at a dinner table, it's called the after party when you finish your play. All the actors go out. I was 13 years old, and all of these actors are asking these beautiful metaphysical questions, right? Who are we? Where do we come from? But in my mind as a 13-year-old, they kept asking, but they didn't know the answers. And I'm like, I know this. I know this. I know what you're talking about. This is what I want to do. It's almost like I'm going to help people understand. I'm going to answer those questions for people. So that's when I knew that I would use this in some way, use it, whether we call it a gift, I'd like to say it's an ability, whether you have it naturally or you learn it through teaching, which I think is always a great way to learn about other people and be with like-minded individuals. That's really why I took up when going to classes, is I was looking for like-minded individuals. Like who else out there is like me, right? Who else wants, where can I feel comfortable, right? We want to find our tribe. So that's how I got into classes, how I started taking classes. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you start like taking classes in mediumship and when you were just a teenager?
I always did readings in some form or fashion, right? With friends or family members, whether it was free or donation, what have you. It really wasn't about the money. It was about me helping others. It really wasn't until I got into college, I guess I would say, because I did this work on the side, like a part-time job, but then I was following my traditional day job, my college degree, which is in psychology, which I love. And so I did this part-time, but I did do it professionally. I've had a website for a very, very long time back when, and I've always reached people, I think, from even around the world that have astounded me. It's so amazing how much we really do have in common with people around the world. We're all searching for these answers. We all have this love of angels or our spirit, and we all want to connect to our departed loved ones. So I was really amazed when I started working with people, from just around the world. It's just so amazing.
It really, I mean, it really is because, our loved ones are still there. I know you studied metaphysics in places like Brazil and
Yeah.
Germany. How did these international studies shape you?
These were dreams come true where you don't expect these wow factors to happen. You're taking a class or you're going for this experience, and you walk away with being so filled with light and love. And then when it starts integrating and digesting it and letting it settle in, you realize, for me personally, that my vibration is raised. So those experiences with other countries really raised me, or raised my vibration, but lifted me to a point where, it's not about us, right? We have to get out of our own way, so to speak, right? And let the spirit world come through. But they lifted me in such a way that I'm deeply touched and very grateful for those experiences.
Yeah, and I know you also do psychometry,
Yeah.
and I don't know if a lot of people are familiar with, number one, what that is.
Yeah.
So can you explain a little bit what that is and talk
Well,
about it?
I love psychometry. I did a lot of my readings really in the beginning with psychometry. I would hold an object. So I would hold, for example, this woman's earrings that were given to her that I had no knowledge of, but they were given to her maybe for a wedding gift back when. But to her, they were very sentimental. So I hold the earrings, not, and I'm going to read the energy from that object, right? I love doing that. So with jewelry like watches or any type of jewelry that we wear a lot of, holds a residual amount of energy that we can then put in your hands, and you open yourself up to receive images or messages or a feeling from that object. So we can do jewelry. I also look at photographs. Photographs is a great psychometry. Whether you're holding it in your hands, you could put your other hand on top or just hold it close to you. Even just looking at images, like in the museum, you can see energy around the artist that painted the painting. So there's that psychometry is reading energy from objects. It could be metal, wood, jewelry, as we mentioned, photographs, for example, clothing. It could be that. I remember I was helping finding I volunteer for a missing persons organization, findmegroup.org, by the way. And we held the shirt of the person that had gone missing, and holding that clothing, uh, that their mother had brought us helped us track and find. So it was not only me, but it was a group of people, and we were able to get enough information that would help the police, that would locate this person. So it's amazing how much energy, even residual energy, like that we have with us, right? So that's psychometry, and I love it. I can teach that. People can learn that if they're interested in it. I think it's amazing. Then it makes you very aware of what's around you and what you're holding, right? And money has an energy to it, right? When we're holding money. So we could read that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing that when you think about it, but having studied it myself, I know what you're saying. So the energy that of that piece of jewelry or that shirt, but it's amazing that you could even track a person and figure out
Yeah.
where that person is now from touching that energy. I mean,
Yeah, it
that's
was
astounding.
incredible. Yeah, the FBI was involved, and we didn't know anything about the case. We weren't we had no it was we only had one leader, so to speak, the organizer, who was our go-between, and it was once again a group of people putting our heads together, so to speak, but sitting together in meditation and receiving this energy, like passing this cloth around, that we were able to locate this young man. And really, I mean, it's still a miracle to me, when we connect with our departed, when we're doing psychometry, all of the spirit world. It's just a miracle, isn't it? It's amazing, and it's very healing. And I know that's the work that you do also, is very healing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. And it's just amazing because when we think of all the objects that we inherit from our
Yeah.
ancestors, you have a chair from your grandma and you have, a hat from your dad, or all these different things actually still have energy.
Isn't it true? And you walk into an antique store or a secondhand store, and it's like they're talking to you, or they grab your attention, so to speak. But it's amazing how much energy we could, maybe if we held, a vase or an object of your grandmother, so to speak, even though she may be departed, we could certainly read some information about you or about her from that energy, and about how she's helping you. So it's truly fascinating. We have to really realize what we surround ourselves with, and be particular about it too. I mean, and honor it.
Yeah, I mean, it is really interesting when you talk about going into an antique store or, like a Goodwill store that has a lot of old things. Somebody died and they just dump it in a Goodwill store. And
Mhm.
all those things have energy, right? And you feel the energy and you're attracted sometimes to, a chair or a plate or whatever it is. And you don't really know what it is, and then you also feel like, oh, that chair or that desk, no, I can't have that. That's been in a place where the energy is,
Yeah.
not good. Yeah, it's very interesting because you do feel that. And I think a lot of people feel it, but they might not realize how in tune they actually are. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because they're not familiar with, they might think, oh, I just don't like that desk, or right, but they're actually tuning into the energy.
Absolutely. And how sensitive people are. And so many people are awakening and having these intuitive experiences, and maybe not knowing it because they have the doubts that follow. We all have doubt now and then. But it is when you practice and work with it, or with a coach, with an instructor, a tutor, that you find that, we have energy, really coming off our hands, so to speak.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, we're like little vibrating paddles, right? The hands. I mean, literally, energy comes off us all the time. I mean, it's just amazing. Now, when you work as a medium, how do you, what does that process look like for you? Now, every medium has, some are clairvoyant, some are clairaudient, and, how does it work for you?
Mhm. I'd like to think that I'm all the above. So I do all of my clairvoyance, the hearing, the clairaudience. I feel certainly clairsentience, and claircognition, which is the knowing, which is very strong, and also the other clairs, the smelling or the tasting of grandmother's pasta sauce, so to speak, or cigarette smoke. You may smell that if your departed loved one, was a smoker. But I use all the clairs. I open and surrender to the spirit world, and So I sense and receive this information differently. And when I'm working with more than one spirit communicator, they may be working with me with more than one Claire. You know, I may have one spirit communicator, grandma, working with me through the feeling or the pasta sauce, the smell of her cooking, where I have, you know, grandpa maybe giving me images of where they used to live, or, you know, what he did for a living, so to speak, or a message. So it is interesting when you work with a couple of spirit communicators at a time, how they're wanting to come through and give you, and they'll work with us however it helps us, right? They're here to connect with their loved one here in the on the plane, earth plane. So they will use whatever means they can to come through and to get their message across. And that's really our job as a medium. My job is to surrender and receive the information and be as good of an interpreter as I can, or to be as good of I guess, a messenger as I can.
Yeah, I mean, that surrender, right? I think that was the hardest thing to let go of when I learned mediumship, because your brain is so active and it
Mhm.
right away wants to contemplate whether it's like, could that be true? Could it be true that this message is, all of a sudden you see pineapples or dolphins and you're like, this doesn't make any sense. And to learn to just trust in what it is that that message is that's coming through. And then, of course, that always makes sense to the person. So do you have any
True.
funny stories like that when you thought, oh,
Oh,
this
yeah.
can't be, or where was it
Yeah.
because you were always, you did this as a child that you really didn't have to go through that contemplation or the
Yeah.
mind coming in trying to tell you that it couldn't be true?
That's a great question. I think sometimes it's just normal or natural that the mind may come in. And because we know we're human and we're having our own life experiences, that there are times where maybe it's easier for me than others, I guess. I don't know when that energy is, and that's why it's important to surrender. Even when we're having a crummy day, so to speak, we have to really realize, look, this is part of the reading. I'm supposed to surrender now because it isn't about me. It's about, the work. But a story I have to share was I was doing a reading for a gentleman, um, and I was bringing through his mother, and a lot of things made sense. I felt we were really connecting with her. I know he knew it, but right at the very end, off the cuff, the last word I said was, "And she put your glass of milk in the freezer." Well, he just started waterworks, right? And for me, that was just the end of the sentence, right? You were not, it's almost as if you're not aware of what you're saying. But for him, that was the, very meaningful moment, because his mother always put that evening glass of milk for him in the freezer for him to drink as a child before he went to bed. So for him, that was the defining moment. But I was so thrilled that that came through. So thrilled.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing, isn't it? And when you learn mediumship, I used to teach mediumship. I would always tell people, just doesn't matter how silly it seems, whatever you are experiencing, you're going to have to say it. And that's such a great example, right?
Yeah.
That where your mind could come in and say, this doesn't make any sense. And then you hold that back. But that was really one of the really important messages that really, meant something to that person.
Yeah, and it came right at the end of the reading where you think, oh, maybe all the important stuff has already been said. We're just kind of winding down, but no, no, no. That is spirits. When spirit knows the readings are ending, that's when they supercharge in and they want to get the last word, right? They want to get as much as they can, knowing that their time is going to end with the medium in a moment. So I was just really, once again, grateful to his mother, but know that, spirit comes through whether we're part of the reading or not. I mean, some things we can use as a reference, right? So for example, if my dog passed, so to speak, so many years ago, my lovely tiger. So when a dog comes through in a reading, I can connect it with my animal in some way. There's a reference there. Maybe the dog that passed was a lot like my dog tiger, or maybe they were very different. But so we can take real life experiences as a medium And that could also mean something in relation that spirit's trying to get to us, right? Spirit's trying to say, look, there's a dog. It's just like your dog. Here it is. And so they will use our life experiences, the spirit world. They will use life experiences and memories to help us get our message through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fascinating. I often have people ask me, can you do a mediumship reading with my dog that passed over?
Yeah. Uh, I don't know if you're an animal communicator or not. I know you're a healer and
Right.
but
I've had some animal communications, but I wouldn't call myself an animal communicator. But
okay.
what is it like for you? Because I know you're an animal
I,
communicator.
yes.
Let's say somebody had,
Yes.
five pets and they just lost their dog and they're devastated.
Yes.
Is there
Yes.
a way to actually have like a mediumship session with the dog?
Absolutely. And not only the dog, but all of the animals usually will come through. But that's what happens is when we want to connect with our most recent uh, animal that passed or their pet that passed, the other dogs will come through just as well. So it's like a family again stepping forward to confirm. And it's so loving. Animals, I believe their soul in some way is always with us, just like our departed loved ones, but our furry family friends or our furry family, they're with us just the same. And I think all animals that I work with, when I do my readings, I can do readings for departed loved ones, departed animals, but I also work with people who have a living animal and maybe they have a dog that's living now that they have behavioral problems with, or it's not getting along with the other animals in their family, or it's not listening to them, or there's maybe something wrong with them and they're not feeling well. So they'll ask me what I'm picking up intuitively. So,
Yeah, that's fascinating.
yeah,
So you really work as an animal communicator as well.
yeah,
So,
love
like
it.
if you have, I mean, people sometimes think that all dogs are the same and it doesn't matter, right? But the breeds make a big difference because some dogs have, like here in Arizona, it's so popular right now to have Bernedoodles, but that's part like a herding dog that's mixed with a poodle. But
Mhm.
herding dogs, they're trained to herd animals, right? So they have a very different approach. They guard the doorways, they guard their food, they guard their toys. It's very different from, for example, a Labradoodle or a Golden Doodle that is just kind of a fluffy, go along, happy go lucky kind of dog. So now I can imagine people have, different breeds and they're not aware that, oh, I have a herding dog, but I never knew that these types of behaviors go along with that dog. So I could see people, tuning in and wanting to understand, well, what is it about my dog? Why are they always growling to get the
Mhm.
toys? Or why are they
Yes.
barking at the doorway?
Yes. Or why are they always staring off into the room and there's no one else there? Which there isn't. There's always spirit there. But yes, the animals always come through and their souls are so magnificent and they have personalities, just like you and me. So they are loving and supportive, and usually they do want to reincarnate, and usually they do help bring through another pet for someone who may have just lost a pet. They are, I almost feel like there are forever soulmates, right? Animals still, I do connect with loved ones on the other side, and usually the pets will come through too. The pets will usually come through and they'll be sitting on the lap. If they were a lap dog, they'll be sitting beside them. They'll be running in circles. If they're a cat, they'll be, up on the couch. Uh, and it's just amazing how healing it is, not only for the person I'm doing the reading for, but the animals are so excited that they are in the reading, that their loved ones they're connecting, they're giving these messages, which is so true. So I think people who say they can't communicate or they doubt that they're communicating with their animals, I know they are in some way, but it's really, once again, it's just the doubt that comes through.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. Do you think that you could be an animal in one life and a human in another?
I do. I do. I believe that you and I and everyone, I mean, this is my belief. I believe we have been many things in many lifetimes. And even in this moment, we are experiencing life in different ways and other ways. But I do believe we can tune in to those past lives, future lives, But I do believe that we can be different things in different lifetimes, right? Because we have been mother, daughter, father, son. We have been all of that. So naturally, for me to believe that when I connect with animals, that they're a part of us and they're big teachers. Animals really are such amazing guides. Horses have such a high spirit about them, right? A lot of people really tune into horses and dolphins, right? Because they have such a high vibration, but all animals really, because I believe it's from the unconditional love that they give.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? Because
Yeah.
the animals are so smart.
Hmm.
It's just amazing the intellect that's there. And, you always see on social media, the elk that comes to the door because, a family member is stuck in a tree. Or, it's just amazing how they tune into the humans. They know that the humans can help them. Or, how many of those have we seen on social media, right? It's just astounding, and it makes you really wonder. Are we the stupid ones? Because we think we're the smart ones, but the animals seem to be, so much more highly evolved in some ways.
Hmm.
More connected
That
to the earth than we are.
Right, right. That telepathic
Yeah.
communication that maybe we forgot that we had before our voices, but we are very much in tune. I just feel in some way we forget that when we come in to incarnate in this lifetime. Excuse me, but the animals, they know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any animal stories to share, or somebody that, saw your advice and said, well, I have this problem dog or problem cat or something? Is there anything that comes to
Oh,
mind that you
oh
could
my
share?
gosh. Well, I know I have a woman who sent me pictures of her race horses and their legs were wrapped, the front legs were wrapped, because they kept injuring their legs for some reason. She couldn't figure out why they were injuring their legs, her two horses. And um, what happened is, so I would tune in to them not only physically to talk about the injury or how to help the injury, but talk to the animal or connect with the animal in an emotional way, and give her what I was sensing or picking up on. And believe it or not, the animals, even though they were around a lot of people, they were getting the care that they needed. They did have this feeling of being alone or feeling loneliness or not feeling loved or appreciated. And she really did comment that she doesn't spend a lot of time with her horses, that she would hire out other, trainers and what have you, and that it was really her love that they were missing to help them. So it was, in some way, it did get her attention, all of this for her to come to me. And it was really, really helped her. I've heard from her several times. And I believe that not only has she helped those two horses, but I think she's gone on to have more horses and help them as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah.
And so if somebody says, well, I got this dog who always barks at everyone, right?
Yeah.
Is there, when they seek your help, can you then tune in and explain to the owner what happens?
Yes, I do. And and just like people, sometimes when people are barking or animals are barking, it could also be from of course, in the past life trauma, it could be something that they came into this lifetime with that they're seeking help for because they're very knowledgeable animals. They know what's happening. They're just trying to find a voice to it, for example, or they're trying to find an outlet for that barking or that behavior that they're exhibiting. So that's what I do. What I tell people is I connect the animal with them, and then we go into a past life and we find out where that came from. Yeah.
Fascinating. We
Yes,
all,
it is.
I was going to say we all carry baggage from our past lives as well, right? We're so interconnected to everything. And now working as a medium, how does like a mediumship reading with when somebody says, I lost this person and, we miss this person so much. How
I
can
know.
mediumship then, provide help for that grief and healing?
A mediumship and in my work as an evidential medium, meaning that, I provide evidence or I provide facts or I provide information that they can validate about the departed person, that is evidential based mediumship. But I do believe just my goal has always been to connect the person I'm working with their departed loved one, and to have them feel their love in their heart, or feel their presence in the room. So that's really the goal, is to, in some way, bring that heart to heart connection, and to let them know that even after the reading that I work with them, that they're going to be with their loved one. We just opened that portal. We opened that idea, that awareness, most of all, that connection. And now, hopefully, they will feel it from here on out. They could always connect, because a lot of people don't know that. They think their loved ones are around. They're not quite sure. They kind of hear them, but it's always that doubt that comes into play. But once, when you get a reading, for example, with a medium, and you receive that validation, that confirmation that this information is coming through, then you can start understanding that, look, maybe there is something more to this. Maybe there is something more to when I get those signs or those messages, when the lights flicker off and on, or I see the feather of the bird or a coin, right? A lot of people, their loved ones will drop coins. So that's always fun.
Yeah. What would you say is the most common sign that you see
Yeah.
the spirit world leaves us? Is that
You know,
coins or feathers or?
Yeah, I think it's probably it could be birds, it could be the coins, sometimes butterflies. Uh it's like you using nature as a way to confirm or to validate. I
Yeah.
know my father comes through in hummingbirds, so to speak, but he also will drop a coin. And what I tell people is, okay, so when you find the coin and you think that's from your loved one, what were you just thinking before you found the coin? Like, go back and what were you just doing or thinking? Because I was just talking to my dad, and then moments later, I see the coin in the middle of the parking lot, right? And then lo and behold, you pick up the coin, and the date was specific as well. You look at the date of the coin, and that played an important memory for me too. So I always tell people, when you see a sign, what were you just doing? What were you just thinking that you feel that could come from your loved one? And does it feel truthful to you? Does it ring true to you? Sometimes, because people have so much doubt, but in that first moment, that first glimpse, they're like, "Oh my God, that's from my loved one." But then the second voice, the doubtful voice comes in, but stay with the first voice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always the hard part is get
Yeah.
rid of the doubtful voice.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was what I had to learn, is just keep going. No, you just got to trust that first. It's always the first thing that comes,
It is.
right? And you just got to let go of all those doubtful things that come, afterwards. So how can people, people that are listening that say, oh, I just lost my mom or my dad, and
Mhm.
um, how can they start tuning in, or how can they learn to, tune into, can they ask for a sign, or how do they do it?
Yeah. So when I am helping people who have just lost someone, or who want to work on their own, because really this is what we do as mediums. We are teaching people how they themselves can tune in, where we're helping them develop and open their own clairs, their own psychic abilities, so to speak, to open up their skills or their abilities to tune into the spirit world. But for people who ask me, how can I feel my mother who I just lost? I would say, look, it is in the heart. It all starts in the heart. If you feel love for your mother, know that you are connecting with her in that moment. When we're thinking about them, when we're even in our grief, even in our memories of them, whether they're sad memories or the funny memories, your loved ones are connecting with you right now. I do want to say that your loved ones are connecting with you and want you to be happy, but they certainly understand that people grieve. Another tool that I recommend is for people to write a letter or to journal and connect with them that way, because it is through the emotions and through the feelings that we're connecting. It's through our senses that we're connecting. And for people who have just lost someone, or have been with them during their passing, I almost feel in a way that they too have that their vibration too has lifted to a point where maybe they don't realize it, but they are wide open. They are so available to the spirit world, but it is through the grief that may be hard to find sometimes. But when our hearts are open, I know that our loved ones are there. And if your heart isn't open, let's just say that you felt guilty because you weren't there at their passing, because that some people feel that, or they feel, that they were estranged and they haven't spoken to them in a very long time. Like, well, what is that like? Can I still connect with my mom? Well, yes, you can still connect with your departed loved one, and in some way be closer to her, um, in this new relationship in some way, because she's still your mom. The personality's still there. The expressions are still there. Her wanting to be your mother is still there. In some way, you can even create a wonderful healing connecting in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. Do you ever have, it makes me think of the first time I was at Arthur Findlay College studying mediumship, and it was my mom who kept, talking and giving me the messages. And then towards the end, the teacher who was doing the reading for me said, "Oh, your dad is here." And he says, "You proved me wrong." And I just started laughing because my dad was so scientific. He was a physician. And when I told him about my near-death experiences and I left my body, and I'm like, "Dad, like, no, you don't understand." And he said, "No," he was so scientific. "It can't happen. It just can't happen." Right. And so him coming through saying, "You proved me wrong." Now he's on the other side and he's communicating back. I mean, I just started laughing. It was just so funny. But it's just such a good example of how when we go to the other side, the spirit world is always so eager to come back and saying, "Oh, sorry, I was wrong," right? So do
Yeah.
you have any, and you get that with people that might have been not so great people when they were here and they go to
Mhm.
the other side,
Mhm.
but then they're eager to, apologize for the things they did wrong. So do you have any
Yeah.
stories like that
Yeah.
to share?
Well, I do have a story. This is really just about healing. And it was a very simple statement that her mother made, that I was working with the woman and her mother came through. And really, before even saying hello to this woman and introducing myself, her mother said, "You were right on time." And the second one was, "And I was not in pain," which sounds, which I have to say, it sounds like a common statement, but in this woman's situation, it was such a big, important part of her mother is monitoring the pain and adjusting her pain levels and the medication. And am I giving her too much or not enough? I mean, that can really create a stressful situation for the daughter or for the family member. So to hear that from the mother, that she wasn't in pain, and the daughter, arrived right on time. I mean, because was in a rush. She didn't know if she could make it with all the scheduling. And those things were the first words that came out of the departed, her mother. So, it's those simple statements, just like yours, that were given to you, that seem to just hit home, you know? And we don't know. And as the medium, you don't know why you're giving the information. You're just knowing that you're supposed to give that information that's being given to you. So that's where the trust would come in,
Right, exactly. You're
right?
just
So
a
surrender
messenger.
and trust.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think that's what you really learn when you study mediumship, is to always go with that first thing you got. Don't try
Mhm.
and turn it into something that makes sense for you, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of things that you say doesn't make any sense, and you just kind of, well, here we go, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
it's
really
it's it's fascinating.
It is fascinating. Not one reading is ever the same. And you really have to open up your imagination as a medium, right? Because maybe we haven't been all around the world or to certain parts of the world, but that information may come through about a different part of the country, or a name may come through, or, some type of a food even, or a apparel, a shirt, or a type of clothing. But if we can stay open in our hearts and our minds and our imagination, and once again let the spirit world, offer to connect with their loved ones and tell us. I mean, really, the spirit world, as a medium, we can actually, sense the spirit world coming through, but also the person we're reading will start to feel them. And that's when I know I'm like, oh, this is an amazing reading, when my client can actually also feel their loved one stepping through.
Yeah. I mean, just amazing. What advice would you have to somebody who would like to learn more about, studying mediumship or psychometry or animal communication? Do you teach all of these things or?
Yeah, I do teach all of these. I have private mentoring that they can connect with me on, contact me. But I always want to encourage someone to take a class or take even just a couple of classes, and maybe from a one instructor, or just see what's out there in the world. There's so much out there, because a lot of times we always want to go down this road, this path. I want to be this type of a medium. But then the spirit world says, no, you're going to, we need help with more medical, or we need more help with you in animal communication, or we need more help. So you just open yourself up to being the best you can be with the spirit world, and they will guide you to where you're most needed, where you can deliver the messages. So I encourage people that take a class. I do a lot of mentoring myself, a lot of teaching with students privately or in a group environment, whether it's online or in person. But yeah, taking a class, whether it's just a short weekend class, can really open you up. It can really open you up to some of your abilities that you didn't know you had.
Yeah. And you also do the healing prayer circle.
Mhm.
What inspired you to found the healing prayer circle, and
Yeah,
what is that like, and how do people
thank
connect with
you.
that?
Thank you. I was just looking at that. I started that a long time ago, and I started it because I myself did not have a community, right? Growing up, I was looking for my tribe. So I felt, well, there must be other people out there looking for a tribe. So I created that healing prayer circle. It's an online free community to join, and we meet on Sundays, and we step into the power of prayer and meditation. My goal is to help people feel not only that sense of belongingness, but to experience the energy of group prayer and group meditation, that it's exponentially more powerful when you're sitting and gathering. Even if it's a virtual circle, it's still the energy that we're all connecting to when we set that intention.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the power, in the number when we all get together, it's like all of our energy, right? It sort of magnifies what we can do. What do you think is the meaning of life?
Ooh, the meaning of life. The meaning of life. Well, I believe the meaning of life is to find joy and happiness, but is also to live your truth and to be authentic, and to be not only kind and a compassionate, but to know that those are our natural qualities. That's not something that we didn't have when we came into this world. We're very powerful beings and co-creators. But if I could just share with people that their joy and their happiness and their laughter, and to follow their dreams and goals, that's really, I do believe, what the spirit world or the universe, God, wants us to do, right? I do believe that we were given dreams and wishes. We in some way we co-created them before we were born. And I do believe if we can follow our passion, our curiosity, then that's really, and then to live that life of compassion and kindness, then that's really the goal of life, is to really have that joy and know that your authenticity, it's very needed on this planet. We are very needed at this time, especially with our love, and once again, how we can contribute our healing. Yeah.
Absolutely. And do you have any upcoming events or courses?
I do. I always have my small group reading events happening. They're online, and every month they're called Circle of Love small group readings, where each individual gets their own reading in a small group environment. I love doing those. That's every month. And then I do have events coming up. I have one coming up in September 20th, I believe, with Thomas John. We're doing a 2-hour event with two mediums doing readings online again, but that's coming up in September. So I would just encourage people to check out my website, and I have much more upcoming events there.
Oh, that's great. So, and how do people find your website?
Yeah, thank you. My website is mediumcheryl.com. And you can also just type in like Healing Prayer Circle, because that's a big member too. But if you'll go to my website at mediumcheryl.com, I have a free intuitive quiz that people can take to find out their strengths, to find out which clairs they're really strong in. So that's a free quiz they can take when they open up my website.
Is it Psychic Medium Cheryl Murphy?
Yes, I actually have two links that
Okay.
go to the same website. So
Okay.
one is Psychic Medium CherylMurphy.com, and the other one is MediumCheryl.com. And then my social contacts on Facebook and Instagram, all of those, it's at Medium Cheryl. Yeah, I shortened it just a little bit to make it easier.
Right, to make it easier for the social media. I love it. Well, it's been such a great pleasure to have you as a guest
Uh,
today.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been such a pleasure to meet you and to be part of your program. So thank you for having me.
As we conclude this episode, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude for your presence within my community. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe, comment, like, and share this podcast episode. Join my free newsletter in the show notes and receive new podcast episodes delivered right to your inbox. If you resonate with the interconnectedness of mind, body, and soul, and are motivated to embark on a journey of personal healing, I invite you to connect with me at drlotte.com. Together, we can pave a path towards transformative healing in your own life.